music education, music therapy, music coaching, music teaching, music neuroscience. Okay, so I'm going to talk about music coaching, music teaching, music therapy, music neuroscience, music as medicine. Okay, we're going to understand what are all these terms. So if I ask somebody to just memorize a particular subject, okay, write it down in an exam, get a pass mark, that is me teaching somebody. Okay, they are just being taught to memorize, not to understand. Okay, but music coaching. So what is the difference between a coach and a teacher? I've spoken about this. A teacher is one who negotiates with the student to value the curriculum, whereas a coach is one who negotiates with the curriculum to bring value to the student, to the person, to the human being. Okay, in teaching, the human being is depreciated under the influence of the curriculum. In coaching, the human being is valued apart from the enclosures of the curriculum. I hope I've made sense. So a teach and a coach. Okay, now, so music teaching is what we will be having many students in our class, right? It's not always one-on-one. Why should we have always a group class? So that the kids listen to each other. All right. If it is a neurodivergent child, then one-on-one is necessary and mandatory. If not, it is not. If the child is not suffering in neurodivergent spectrum, please keep them under groups, because in groups they will get to listen to one another. Now, what is the point of listening to each other if they are not having different or dynamic curriculums? Different curriculums which have variance, slight variances from each other. How does the variance being created? How is the variation being created for every student? When you understand the absorption rate, how is the child absorbing this information? Okay, and that is when you present to them different details of different informations, slightly changing the curriculum, slightly manipulating the curriculum. For example, a kid might be very good with reading music, like reading. Leave the child to the pieces of sheet music. They are very good. They will end up becoming excellent subject matter experts in their fields. Okay, but when it comes to a child who is struggling to read music, understand that they are more listeners. They could be more listeners. Could be. Okay, and their biology is not designated to be priority visual learners. They can do their basic tasks like walking on the road, looking at their mobile, looking at the house, looking at the mirror. These are the basic tasks that they can do. But if you want them to get specific into a condensed form of information, music is a condensed form of emotional communication just with 7 letters, where other languages needed 26 alphabets to 40 to 50 to even 200 sounds. Music just needed 7 sounds. Okay, so music is that condensed form of language. So he or she is literally reading the music script. When they're doing that, please understand, are they visual learners or are they not visual learners? Could they be? Now, next question, could they be auditory listeners? Priority auditory listeners. Okay, if they're priority auditory listeners, then what we should do? We should slowly expand and export them in the art of listening to their songs that they have already heard. What are the songs that you have already heard? When you have learned all these, because the data is already there in the brain. And right now, whatever they're trying to play, they're not trying to play with the existing information presented in front of their eyes, but rather the existing information that is presented in their brain. It is the sounds that they have kept listening. So, auditory listeners, you need to understand that. If they are not auditory listeners, then the next question comes. So they are not good with reading music. They are not good with even listening and storing that data and to play the instrument. If that's the case, next question comes. Could they be subconscious coordinates? Who is a subconscious coordinate? A subconscious coordinate is one that is neither a visual learner but nor an auditory listener. They could be partial. They are both. They're both visual learners and auditory listeners. That's why both the functions are not at their fullest. But they know how to set a team of people who are both visual learners and auditory listeners. Okay, These are the great businessmen of our time. These are the people who are dropouts in their colleges, who started something, not who carried on something. You need a degree to carry on an existing piece of existing business or something like that. But to create that business, it's not the degree that's mandatory. It is that subordinate conscience that actually puts a team together, understands a product, and creates a framework and an environment for that product to exist. Okay, so subconscious coordinates. Then you have arrhythmia. You have those who can actually perform the timing in absolute perfection. They're very good with that, and those who struggle with it. Then the question comes, do they struggle with behavioral arrhythmia? Are they absorbing information based on their heightened sense of a need to do it? Or is there a regular pattern that they can actually perform thing talk? Regularly can they do it? And most of them struggle with good rhythms. But there are few who are not good with rhythm. You need to understand, are they struggling with behavioral arrhythmia? And give tests and spaces and creative lessons, different lessons where their rhythm actually comes out at specific moments, not always. All right, these are the ones who will work suddenly with all their gusto, with all their energy, with all their tempo, all the speed, everything. They'll perform a brilliant task and then go silent for a long period of time. And we need to understand such people. So music is that condensed form of language that reveals the attitude and the innermost being of a person. That is why music education should not be music teaching. It should be music coaching. You can't just say 50 kids, you can't just take 10 kids or 20 kids and say everybody does the same thing. When you do that, you have a failed mechanism, creating failures over a long period of time. And that is why music coaching happens on a daily basis at Besser Academy with me. I meet my students every day, 5 days a week. Saturdays and Sundays, give them a breather, please. Public holidays, give me a breather, please. Okay? 5 days a week, I meet with the students. Why? Because we need to understand who and what they are so that I can actually bring out their innermost idea of life. How they're absorbing information, I need to understand that so that I can give them lessons tailor-made for them, slightly different, and in a group setting when they all listen to one another, they know how to harmonize with each other in life. That's why a group class is mandatory. If you have a one-on-one, my child can't do it. It doesn't work that way. One-on-one, no. Your child is not mentally retarded. Your child needs to be exposed to the group, not one-on-one. When you are living in this world, are you just being one-on-one? No, you are a group entity. You are the superconscious. Remember that. We function as a group. All right? So it works like that. Unless the child is struggling with neurodivergence. First one-on-one and then one-to-many. Many-to-one. Okay? Never one-on-one on a long-term basis. So I told you what is music education. So you understood what is music education, right? So much is there in music education. In that, music teaching, music coaching. Coach appreciates the student, negotiates with the curriculum. Teach appreciates the curriculum to fit into the student. Remember this vast difference is there. Now, once you take a before and after, okay, before and after, like how the student came to you, and post 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, how the student is. The being of the student has to appreciate. Once the being of the student appreciates, that's music therapy. If you are able to give the 30-minute discipline, so I say 30 minutes every day with me, right? We all come together as a collective. 30 minutes we practice our lesson and we walk out. And I say no more practices after the class. Post 1 year, how is the child? How is the being in the human? How is it? Okay? Did we create any expressions out of it? Did we create any appreciations in that being? And that is important. If you have done that, you're being a music therapist. Okay? Music therapist. All right? Now, and when you have calculated data of the same, putting in Excel sheet, variables, child came at this age, student came at this age, showed and displayed these kind of things, this was the nature of it, etc., etc., etc. Post 1 year, this is the status of the student. Student is able to play X amount of pieces, but at the same time, the being has appreciated. The value of the being is appreciated. That becomes music therapy. And it dwells into music neuroscience. Music neuroscience is that parallel. Now we bring in another spectrum here. Okay, it's a totally new sphere. We bring in medicine here. What is music neuroscience? Music neuroscience is the art of understanding the appreciation of the human being with music and medicine, with medicine only, and to draw correlations in between these variables and to see the response of the being of the individual, the lifestyle of the individual, the healing and the therapy of the individual. When you see these three spectrums based on these three spheres and the correlations between them, it is called as music neuroscience. So that music can serve as medicine at the end. See, medicine is going to evolve. And I believe medicine is going to evolve not only through AI, but through music. Okay? Maybe no longer drugs, but curated playlists based on the culture of the individual. How is my culture? What is my culture? What's my upbringing? Somebody asked me this question when I play the middle C on the piano. Is there some magic happening in my brain? No. If the middle C was being played throughout your life for a very long time, then if that stored data was there, when somebody plays the middle C, is there a connection that's happening based on whether you are an effective auditory listener? If you're not an auditory listener, it's just going to be a key. It's not going to sync with your brain suddenly. No. But if you're a keen auditory listener, if it's there in your biology, then automatically you will sync with that note. Okay. And that note will give you inspiration. Okay. Inspiration will create right hormones, reduce the stress, therefore create the right hormones in healing. Very simple. Okay. So that is where we are trying to ask this question. Can music serve as medicine? Music can only serve as medicine if music coaching is being entertained in every music education space. Every music education space. Are we just simply teaching music or are we coaching music? So I've told you what is music coaching, music teaching, what is music education. I've told you when it becomes music therapy. I've told you how it becomes into music neuroscience when it is correlated along with medicine and parallel and studied. And therefore music becomes medicine. Okay. So this is Teja Ralapalli. I am a music neuroscientist. I am a music theorist. Okay. A theorist in the sense like I'm the first person in the world to have mapped the grand staff notations with the central nervous system of the human body. I hypothesized that the music grand staff notations is constructed based on the central nervous system of the human body. It is mimicking the contralateral control of the brain. Therefore, the sight reading or the grand staff notations which evolved during the 14th and the 16th century is not mere art or an expression or the copy of that art onto the instrument, rather it is neurological coherence. It is neurological coherence. Okay. So, yes. So the arguments that I've got is this. See, when the grand staff lines in sense it's a script, it's a letter, okay? It's a script where dots are drawn from one musician to another musician so that you can read. Simple, all right? It's a letter between musicians. The question that has come is, well, it evolved because the eye could only read 5 lines. I have a question, okay? First of all, if you think music is art, then stay as an artist. Don't switch to becoming a scientist. Okay? If you think that music is only art and art in its expression, don't come into science. Okay? If you say science, okay, now here is the question. If the eye could only read 5 lines, is there any ophthalmologist in the entire world or this person who studies eyes? Is there any ophthalmologist in the world who's ever said that the eye could only see 5 lines at a given time? Is there any record? No. So you took something, you made a guesswork and you started making a living out of that guesswork. Okay, you literally call the four great theorists, the pillars who actually designed this rhythms, rhythmics, bars and everything, the 5 lines, the treble, bass and everything, these guys who designed this as literally as dumb people. Was there ophthalmology back then where they could study, oh, the eye can only read 5 lines? Between 14th and 16th century? No, it isn't. So it doesn't make sense. That which doesn't make sense is not scientific. So don't comment on science when you are a mere artist. By saying mere artist, I'm not degrading artists. I'm just saying you're an artist, stick to art. If you have questions, let's have a discourse. Don't call this pseudoscience because I'm bringing the science here. Okay, in the grand staff notations alone. In other spectrums, some great geniuses have done it and I'm wholeheartedly grateful to them. Now, the next question that I have personally is, if the medical community proposed the contralateral control of the brain, the first ever recorded data, paper, journal, in the late 18th century, the idea of the contralateral control of the brain, how could the music theorists know it between 14th and 16th century? Or is there a missing page? Is there a missing page? Was there collision of various cultures, people discoursing various fields of their study, which gave rise to the grand staff notations, from being Arezzo-Guedo's 4-line system into the 5-line system of the grand staff notations that we currently use throughout the world. Music cannot become scientific if it remains an art. We will only be remained as artists. If it wants to become medicine and not bogus theories, it needs to be scientific. Bring the science into music, like how I've done. I've done my part. It's a small thing, but I've done my part. Okay. Apparently, no one did this in the last 800 years. Okay. I own the registered copyright for this. Yes. I've got it on international copyright. I've got it in print. It's mine. I've done my part. You do your part. Instead of understanding this as how can it be in science? Well, study. How can this be science? 4 lines became 5 lines. Why the eye could only see 5 lines? What sort of logic is this? No ophthalmologist ever said that the eye could only read 5 lines. So there goes. It goes into trash. So make this science so that it can become scientific. Therefore, it can be established as therapy. How can you make music as a therapy if it is not scientific? It's just mere art. Right? It's no longer medicine. So make it a point to appreciate music as science and study about it. Study about the fundamentals of it. Okay? So I've told you what is music coaching, teaching, music education, music therapy, music neuroscience, when it is correlated with medicine and studied, the biomarkers, the vitals studied before and after. Baseline is established, and post 3 months of therapy, what is happening, all that stuff, it becomes music neuroscience. Why? Because it's completely based on how we are absorbing information into our brain, because music is absorbed into the brain or not into the bloodstream. Okay, so that's why it is neuroscience. Okay, because your brain is actually having memories of the notes that are being played, the motifs, the short sequences of sounds that are bringing appreciation and inspiration into your life. Inspiration means less stress means better medicinal effects. Have I made sense? I'm making sense. Are you? Connect with me if you're interested on this. If you're just here to just call me pseudoscience, dude, go ahead and call me pseudoscientist. I don't care. I've done my part. If not today, tomorrow, this is going to be scientific. This is probably the biggest entry into it. We've got this beautiful building, a castle with no door entry, no entry of the door. I'm creating that. Okay. So thank you for listening for a 19 to 20 minute video. Love you folks. Join us, join Besser Academy. If you want proper coaching, if you're just here for, see dude, robots and AI is going to perform better than us. Think, why do you need music? You need music for some reason. What is that reason? Find that reason. Join me. See you soon in another video. This is Teja Ralapalli, your music neuroscientist, educator, coach, theorist, signing off.